Welcome back, creeps and creepettes. This is Stephanie, and this is 15 Minutes of Maim, where I watch crappy Netflix horror movies so you don't have to. We have 4 new titles this week, and one of them was actually pretty good, so we'll get to that. So I know a lot of us are stuck inside right now, especially here in Michigan. It's really, really hot, so going outdoors seems kind of like the most terrible thing, like the floor's hot lava, don't go out there. So I've got some movies that I'm reviewing for you so that you can find something cool to watch. We're going to start off with The Recall, which is a 2017 film that stars Wesley Snipes, RJ Mitty, and Jedediah Goodacre. The tagline is, when 5 friends vacation at a remote lake house, they expect nothing less than a good time, unaware that planet Earth is under an alien invasion and mass abduction. Okay, so this movie, it starts off like your typical, a bunch of kids are going on vacation. So they're like, there's, hot girls and guys that are all horny, and it's like super campy. And so they stop at like a gas station or a party store or something, like they always do. And they run into Wesley Snipes' character. And he's like this creeper who's like out in the woods being a creep. And, so they're kind of like, stay away from him. They get to the cabin. Weird stuff starts happening. And like this alien, one of them gets abducted by aliens from like the lake, I do believe it was. And okay, so this movie isn't terrible, but it's really not, like, this is really middle of the road. Wesley Snipes did a great job. He's in it for like that minute at the store, and then he's like out of it for about like a decent amount of time, and then he comes back in because obviously he helps the teenagers because he knows all about the alien abductions, of course. So he does a good job. I like him as an actor. I mean, it was an okay movie. It wasn't scary. The alien special effects were, I mean, it was just kind of boring. It felt kind of, I'm afraid of aliens. So if an alien abduction movie doesn't scare me, then it can't be that good. So I'm going to give this one 2 out of 5 shrieks. And it's worth it if you like Wesley Snipes and you're just kind of looking for something campy and silly to kind of run in the background. But it's not like something you should definitely seek out to waste time on, in my opinion. Next up, we have.
Okay, but is he dressed as Blade at any point in time? And 2, does he ever say always bet on black?
No, but he's dressed in black. So there's that. But he's not dressed like Blade, and he doesn't say that. So yeah, it's, it is what it is, right? It is what it is. It wasn't like the worst thing I've seen. We'll put it that way. And next we're going to move on to The Super, which has my boy Val Kilmer in it. It also stars Patrick John Fluger and Louisa Krause. It came out in 2017. So these first couple are more recent movies. This is like a horror mystery. So this guy moves into this huge New York City apartment building with his 2 daughters. He has like nowhere to stay. So like they set him up in like this really creepy room in the basement with his 2 daughters, which I thought was like, I mean, he had nowhere to stay and they gave him a job, which is super cool. But like, he's got 2 daughters and they like put him in this like creep ass hole in the wall in the basement. But anyway, so there's other supers that work there, and Val Kilmer's character is one of them. And he comes across as being super creepy, like right away. And, he does a good job of acting, which, I mean, we all know that Val Kilmer is amazing. And he's kind of disappeared. I know I don't know if he's had health issues or what's been going on with him, but I've always loved him. And so it was kind of cool to see him in this movie. There is like a significant twist, and most people that are into this kind of movie will probably be able to figure it out. I don't want to give it away because this movie was actually pretty good, and it's worth watching. So all these weird things start happening inside of this high-rise building, and one of the daughters seems to have some kind of like power, or like she's like tapped into something that's inside the building. It's pretty creepy, a little creepy. So I'm going to give this one 3 out of 5 shrieks, and I would say watch it. It's not a pass. I enjoyed it. It just wasn't, it didn't wow me, but it was definitely worth the watch. So didn't want to give it 4. It wasn't quite there, but 3.5. We'll go 3.5. I feel like that's fair. That's a good number, right? All right. And then next we're going to go on to Forgotten, or The Forgotten, which is also a movie that was like that was a 2004 movie about aliens with Julianne Moore, but this is a different one. This is not that movie. This one is on Netflix, obviously. It came out in like 2014, it looks like. And so the tagline for this one is, after a teenager goes to live with his father in abandoned public housing, he hears strange noises and decides to investigate with his new friend. This movie was so boring. So boring. So this kid goes to live in an abandoned.
How boring was it?
It was so boring that like I don't know, it took me probably like 5 hours to finish this movie. I probably paused it like a million times. It was super boring. So this kid they move into this, I mean, it's a literally abandoned public housing. So they have no running water, they have no electricity, and somehow this kid is allowed to live there with his dad, which makes no sense. Like the mom is off somewhere. They never like fully explain. I think basically she just couldn't like take care of him anymore or something. So he goes to live with his dad, and his dad's being really creepy. And so the kid is in his room, and I'm using air quotes because it's not really, it's an abandoned creep like flat in the UK. It's very creepy. So he starts hearing noises and he goes to investigate next door, but he finds this chick like feels bad for him because he's sitting in a park at some point and he's getting picked on by these other kids, and she like stands up for him. So he kind of like gloms onto her, and they end up becoming like friends. And she goes into the abandoned flat with him. And apparently they find out that this flat was the scene of a violent crime, and that the girl is tied to it. So there's an interesting story there, but it is so boring. It moved way too slow to get to the point, and it wasn't scary. Maybe because it took so long to get to the point. Yeah, it's just, I'm going to give this one 1 out of 5 shrieks. Just a snooze fest.
More of a sympathy shriek you're giving it? That's what you're giving it?
Yeah, just
a
one.
Pity shriek?
Because I feel bad, you know. Yeah, I have nothing else to say about that one. But last but not least, we have, out of this batch, this was my favorite movie. And I never would have watched this because it looked so terrible. Even when I explain, I'm going to read you the tagline. The movie's called Siren. It came out in 2016. This is the tagline. A groom-to-be and his pal celebrate with a debauched night out that ends with a supernatural assault by a stripper who is now what she appears to be. So hearing that, no, I'm not going to watch that. You know, it sounds kind of stupid. This movie stars Chase Williamson, Hannah Fierman, and Justin Wellborn. But yeah, so this, I just assumed this was going to be, you know, kind of just terrible. And it starts off a little corny.
Okay, so I have a clarifying question already.
Yes.
So is it a stripper with supernatural powers, or is it like a ghost stripper?
Well, no, I'm going to get to it because they get to it pretty, I mean, like within the first 20 minutes, I feel like this is not a spoiler. I think that anybody who watches this movie, like they give it away pretty quickly, like what's going on. So at the beginning of the movie, there's a guy in a church that like these people are trying to summon something, and like he interrupts it, and apparently they did summon this thing, and he ends up, it's a little girl. And so he's like, come with me, you know, I'll take care of you, blah, blah, blah. Fast forward, these guys are going to, you know, this crazy bachelor party weekend, and they end up at this weird fucking house with a guy at the first strip club that they went to was like, you should check out this house if you know, really want to have a good time. And when they first walk in, I mean, it's definitely a different type of club. Everybody looks alternative. The strippers are doing like crazy, they look like performance art, like Gothic performance art. They look really cool. And so the proprietor, owner of this place is like, so I know you guys are here for a bachelor party. I'm going to take you to this private room and we'll get you situated. And so the groom to be ends up going into this room with this, he walks in and it's dark and then there's a window. And then he sees this lady with these really like kind of crazy eyes through the glass, and she starts to sing. And like he's feeling all of these crazy things, and it displays all that obviously on the screen. But what ends up happening is once he leaves the room, he realizes she's locked in. And so for some reason, he feels like it's a great idea to, like, he thinks it's just like she's trapped there because of like, it's some kind of a, I don't know, trafficking ring or something. So he decides to take her out of this building. Craziness ensues, and so you did hear when I said that she sang, right? So Siren, she's definitely a demon. She looks human, but she can transform into this thing with a crazy tail, and her face splits open. And these special effects were really good for being, you know, like basically a B movie. I was pretty impressed by it. I definitely enjoyed how they moved forward with this movie. I highly recommend this. This one gets 4 out of 5 streaks. Get through the first 20 minutes. It's a little corny, but from there, it's a lot of fun. And like I said, the special effects are totally worth it. So yeah, I'm going to go with Siren being the best out of the 4 movies that I watched for this week's show. Again, we reviewed The Recall with Wesley Snipes, The Super with Val Kilmer, The Forgotten with people whose names I don't know because they're easily forgotten, and Siren, which is the winner this week. So hopefully one of these sounds good to you and you guys can find something to entertain yourself with. Thank you so much for listening to 15 Minutes of Maim, and I will be back next week with more reviews.